Hey guys, coming at you today with a perfect summertime recipe or wintertime recipe. One I've been meaning to figure out for a while, a keto marshmallow, and at the fraction of the cost of the ones you can buy at the store. So, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alicia and I'm a pastry chef with a sweet tooth. And I'm here to show you all the tips and tricks on how to make the best keto recipes possible. So if you enjoy my recipes, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down there, thumbs up the bell icon so you get notified when a new video comes out. Leave me all the comments and share with all your friends and family. It all helps my channel grow and to bring you new keto recipes every Saturday. Today, a pretty simple recipe. There's just a couple tips and tricks to make it come out perfect. Working with our keto sweeteners is a little bit more difficult because they don't act exactly the same as sugar, of course. So I took a regular marshmallow recipe and just made a couple of tweaks. I made about 4 batches of marshmallows. I figured out the right ratio of gelatin to our sweetener just because our sweetener isn't as stable and a lot of recipes had corn syrup or other stabilizing sugars in there in order to get it the right consistency. So I just had to modify it a little bit. So let's jump right into the recipe. The only sweetener that will work for this is Allulose. The Marshmallow, which are one of the only marshmallows on the market for keto, except for I think Chalk Zero just came out with one. The Marshmallow uses xylitol, which I've used it to make hard candy before, but it does crystallize. So I'm not sure. They added some fiber and some Monkford erythritol and collagen into it. I'm guessing to help stabilize the sweeteners and stuff in order to make a not crunchy marshmallow. This is a very basic recipe. I didn't even use beef gelatin. I used unflavored gelatin. You definitely can use the beef gelatin. You might end up having a little bit firmer of a marshmallow though, because beef gelatin is a little bit stronger of a gelling agent than the unflavored pork gelatin is. We are starting with allulose in here and a little bit of water. I'm gonna measure it out for you in cups, but doing cup measurements is kind of inaccurate, especially when I'm trying to test a bunch of recipes. So I always go by grams. It should be 2/3 of a cup. I know I should be using a glass measuring cup, but I feel like that's even inaccurate too. Every time I did 1/3 of a cup, I got 69 grams. So pretty close. So 2/3 of a cup. I just upped it to 140 and it was fine. You're basically cooking the sugar and evaporating the water in it. About 2/3 of a cup of water with 500 grams of allulose. Whenever I measure allulose, I always figure about 160 per cup, which I got 159. So it'll be 3 cups and I'll try to measure out the rest of it for you. So we need about 20 grams more. So I'm gonna figure about 2 tablespoons. So 1 tablespoon was 12, 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. So with 1 gram left. The scale I have up in my home kitchen, I prefer and will be linked below. You saw how difficult that was to get 500, where otherwise I could have just used a scoop and scooped it into the pot. It's so much easier. And I haven't checked the price on the scale in a while, but when I bought it, it was like $15 to $20. It's well worth the investment. So it's going on the heat for now while we get our gelatin going. I'm just gonna put it on low for now. You probably could have it on medium, but with me talking and stuff, I don't want it to go too far before I'm ready to talk about it with you. You can do this all at once. For the gelatin, I did have to up it a tiny bit because when I did just the amount that was in a regular marshmallow recipe, they were really soft. They still work. It just wasn't quite the texture of a marshmallow. If you like softer marshmallows, you can definitely minus some of the gelatin. And you can also up the gelatin if you like more stiff marshmallows. We are gonna compare the Marshmallow to this marshmallow at the end. We need 120 grams, about a half cup of water. I got 100, so half cup plus 2 tablespoons. Now, a regular recipe for marshmallows called for 21 grams of Knox unflavored gelatin. I had to up it by 7 grams, which is about 2 teaspoons. Everybody wonders how like recipes are made and how we come up with the numbers we do. And it's because we do small batches a lot of times and do testing with that and changing the ingredients a tiny bit either way, more or less. And then when you double it, it ends up being what it is. Give it an initial stir. The reason I'm using this spoon, I'll show you when we get closer. Clean it off. It doesn't have any undissolved sugar on it. So 28 grams of gelatin. So I'll measure it out for you. Even like tablespoon measures aren't like super accurate because like, who's leveling it off every time? Nobody. You're gonna bloom it right over the water. So it's 7 grams for a tablespoon, which means 4 tablespoons, should be. See, that one was 8 and 8, so it was 3 and 3/4 of a teaspoon. So just give that a little mix and let it dissolve in there. I'm gonna put it on my mixer. We'll give that another little stir once it's all bloomed. We don't need our scale anymore. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt measured out here. I'm gonna measure out the extract. The first time I forgot the extract and it tasted delicious still. Because our sugar, our sweetener goes a little bit further than regular sugar, it caramelizes. So you already get like a caramely flavor to your marshmallows. So I am going to add caramel flavor and a little bit of vanilla extract to this one. I added just vanilla to the other ones and it didn't add much to the flavor. So I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of caramel and a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Also, I'm going to be trying these later and the only chocolate I have is the salted caramel Lily's. We're going to do the salted caramel chocolate. So this will go really good with it. I feel like no matter what, when you toast a marshmallow, you're getting caramelized sugar. So it's gonna taste kind of like caramel. So it kind of just complements it. Okay, see our gelatin is really thick in there. Give it a little stir. That is ready. I'm gonna go wash my spoon and show you the trick in knowing when your sweetener is ready. So for regular marshmallows, you need it at a hard, pliable ball is the sugar. It's about 250 for regular sugar. Allulose doesn't get into like a pliable hard ball until about 320, 325. But to test this, I have some ice here. I'm gonna fill it up with some cold water just to test if the sugar is at a hard, pliable ball stage. And that's when you know you can pull it off. So I do have very dirty laser thermometer here. So I am gonna test it, but you need to test all around. I did buy a candy thermometer, like one that attaches to the pot. But the problem with those is that it only tests in that one small area. And allulose is finicky. Like it can be like not done in like a second. So I always just keep an eye on it, swirling it around, testing with the laser thermometer. I have 2 different ones, this one and the one upstairs. I'll link both of them down below. They come in handy for stuff like this. Candy thermometers, they're great and all, but not for our sweeteners. They're good for regular sugar that acts normal. While we're waiting on this, I just wanted to do a little price comparison. I actually looked up the price. I'm like, is it really worth it to make your own marshmallows? And this process is pretty simple. So I looked up like the cost, and making this batch of marshmallows, you'd have to buy 8 packages of the Marshmallow, and they're about $5.50 a pack. And even if your allulose costs you $10 a pound, which that's on the high end of allulose, it's still way cheaper. So it is definitely worth doing yourself, and it's really not that hard once you get the hang of it. The hardest part is getting the sugar right, but no matter what, it is going to come out, just the texture might be a little bit different. So I'm gonna swirl it around. So it's at 240. It's already turning color, so you can see that that's what the difference is. Like I put it in this water, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's like pretty much gone. Like, it just dissolves so quickly. I'm not good at the science talk of this all, but I know there's more water. It's more hygroscopic, I think it's called, than regular sugar. So you have to cook it more to get it to harden. Nice thing is, it doesn't crystallize as much as regular sugar would. Like, all the recipes suggested to cover it for a couple of minutes and not get any like sugar on the sides because it'll recrystallize your mixture. I've never had that problem with Allulose. Giving your gelatin a mix here, ready to go. Every time you test your sugar, make sure you clean off your spoon, just because you don't want to add in sugar that's at a different temperature into your pot again. I'm going to explain the pan now. You can either do an 8x8 pan or a 9x13. An 8x8, they'll be thick marshmallows. 9x13, they'll be a little bit thinner. But you do got to use butter or coconut oil. You can't use spray. I tried that the first time and it completely stuck. So definitely some kind of solid fat in order to keep it from sticking to the pan. You're also going to want some kind of spray oil to spray a spatula to get it out of here. So have that handy also. I think that's everything. It's a very simple recipe. It's just really just getting the sugar and the amount of gelatin right. All right, 250. I'm gonna crank the heat a tiny bit on here. First time you do it, definitely keep your sweetener low so that you don't miss the point where it's like 320-ish. But once you've made it a couple of times, you'll get a feel for where you need to pull it off at. The amount of time it takes also depends on the size of your pot. The bigger the pot, the more surface area is getting heated, so it'll take less time than a tiny pot. When it gets to about 250 is where it takes like the longest to get up to the 320. I'm using a silicone 8x8 here. You can use pretty much anything you want. Make sure you do all the way up to the edges because it does make a lot. That's ready to go. Okay, we're up to 274. We're at 280. We're at 295. Now is when it starts getting really fast, when it hits about 300. You can even just dip your spoon in. And then you can see on here, it's still like a syrup. It's not a hard ball at all. We're at 311, so we're getting there. 315. Okay, some spots are 320, so we do a little test. And it's almost a hard ball, not quite. We'll pull it off at 324. It's gonna go further, and you wanna let it chill for a minute until the bubbles subside. One more test, just to make sure we're at the right temperature. I want to show you what it looks like. So it is now a ball and it's kind of pliable. So that's what you want. This isn't cooled all the way. See, now it's hard, like that. So once the bubbles subside, you want to turn on your mixer to medium speed and you're going to just drizzle down the side of your bowl. So there's a couple different ways to know it's done. When you see it stop rising is one thing, and also when you see it start coming away from the sides You want to do it while it's still kind of warm, otherwise it's going to be too hard to work with. So it was at like 114 I temped it when I saw it was like kind of pulling away from the sides and no longer like getting super fluffy. It is really hard to get it all out of there, but either way you're going to have a ton of marshmallow. If you plan to touch it with your hands, make sure you're oiled up real good. You want to get this in here and spread out as quickly as possible. There were recipes that had egg white in them. Those are more for like very soft marshmallows. It keeps it from hardening super fast. Used to make like piped peeps and stuff like that, which I may do a recipe like that at some point. I just haven't done any experimenting with that. Okay, now that it's like that, the only other thing is using some kind of powdered sweetener to kind of act as like, you know, a flour so that it doesn't stay too sticky, which I'm gonna have down there a mixture of sweetener and a little bit of arrowroot. That's the only carbs in this, and you really don't need the whole mixture. So I sprinkle it on and then kind of even it out. The hardest part about this recipe is it takes 6 to 12 hours to set. When we go to cut these, I'll have a mixture of the powdered sweetener and arrowroot. You don't really need it for this part, but I found it does help to keep the marshmallows separated. So you just leave them like this to air dry for 6 to 12 hours, and then we're gonna cut into them and try them. But yeah, that's the marshmallow recipe. It's not super difficult. It's maybe a little messy and sticky, but not really difficult. Okay, I'm back. It's been a crazy couple of days. So it's actually been 4 days since I shot the last of this video. So it does look a little bit different than it would for you, because after a while it turns kind of caramely colored again from the allulose, and it kind of shrinks down a little bit. But if you do it 12 hours after you make the marshmallows, they're gonna look exactly the same. They tend to start getting yellow a couple days later. I don't really have a measurement for this. I looked it up on like a regular marshmallow recipe, and they just use powdered sugar with a little bit of arrowroot, well, not arrowroot, cornstarch in it. We're not gonna do that, but you can mix up a big batch of this. I only put a tiny bit of arrowroot in my powdered sweetener, and it worked fine to keep the marshmallows from sticking to each other. Maybe like a half cup of powdered sweetener. We'll do a half teaspoon, which isn't gonna be very many carbs. It's not gonna add any carbs to the marshmallow. Just mix that together, and you're not gonna use all this even for one batch of marshmallows. So the cornstarch or arrowroot or whatever you choose to use isn't gonna add any carbs to this. Okay, now these are the marshmallows. I ended up covering them after a day because I knew I wasn't gonna get to filming the ending to this, but they are marshmallows. You buttered it up, they should come right out. You should dust your surface. Silicone makes it really easy, but it's easy in any kind of pan you have. Marshmallows. I'm gonna make these kind of big. The other ones I was making smaller. I'm gonna make these a little bit bigger because I want a nice more. So I do suggest doing a little bit of oil on your knife or whatever you're using. Some suggested using scissors, which I think you could do that after you cut like big slices out. But for this part, I think it's better to use an oiled knife. Make sure you go all the way through. And once you do that, you cover it in the powdered sweetener. And this doesn't add any cooling effect. I was really worried about the outside like tasting like the powdered erythritol, but it really doesn't. Spread the oil down a little bit more. They will be a little bit stickier for you, I believe, because these have set for 4 days, so they're pretty solid and not super sticky anymore. And again, they won't be this yellow either. I'm gonna just cut this guy. I want a nice square, so they're not gonna go to waste either way. I'm gonna do more experimenting with s'mores. I made a couple batches, but I used a cereal that was kind of stale, so I don't know if it's the marshmallows or if it's the cereal that doesn't taste very good in it. But I think we're gonna have to do a little bit of messing around with a regular like Rice Krispie treat recipe. Okay, so now that they're all cut, Marshmallows. So I'll show you the texture of just ripping them like that. They don't melt instantly like a regular marshmallow doesn't. Super good. Caramely because of the allulose, and we did use some caramel extract in these ones. And they last a super long time just out on your countertop, so you can just have these like ready to go. Now, like if you don't care that they're nice and like cut, you can go in with scissors and cut them that way. I'm gonna get a little lube on there. Just cuts a little bit cleaner when you do the oil, but not too much different. Big square puffy marshmallows. I haven't toasted any this big yet, so we're gonna try that. Be good. So really the only thing in this is protein. I'll have the macros down below, how many ounces this all makes, how many ounces is 1 gram of protein and all that. So you can cut them in a lot of different ways. For other applications, like making Rice Krispie treats, you're gonna want them a little bit smaller. It's either a little bit sticking to each other, so you just kind of coat them all in the sweetener, and they stay good on your countertop in an airtight container. You don't want them to be too cold. You don't want air getting into them. They will like stiffen up. You got a lot of air going into them. They're already kind of, I think they're stiffer than they normally would be, because I just wrapped them up instead of putting them in an airtight container. But that's what you want to do. Marshmallows. That's it for keto marshmallows. Oh, I made ambrosia over the 4th of July weekend. I know ambrosia isn't keto because there's usually made with fruit that is not keto, but you cut down on the sugar a lot by using these marshmallows instead of regular marshmallows. My mom loved it. She loves pineapple, and she used to make ambrosia salad all the time when we were little, but it does work. They don't melt down all the way, so I would suggest cutting them nicely. I just ripped them because I thought that they would melt, so it looked kind of weird in the ambrosia. I don't eat ambrosia because I don't like pineapple, I don't like coconut, but I made it kind of as a treat for my mom for this weekend. And she tried it the next day because I left her with some, and she asked me if I had a recipe for marshmallows. They always get my stuff ahead of time usually because I'm testing stuff and I have extras and I take them over to my family's house. So she's already wanting to make these keto marshmallows. Let's toast one up. I'm just gonna use a fork, and I brought my butane torch. I have done it on the stove and it's worked, but I kind of want to try the torch. So I did make my graham crackers, but this recipe would work great with, like, I've been debating on doing a video with my shortbread cookies, making like the Keebler fudge rounds, you know, with the fudge on bottom and the chocolate on top. That'd be perfect for s'mores, or my chocolate chip cookies, or pretty much any one of my cookies would be delicious for s'mores. So you don't have to make graham crackers, but I made some. I followed my recipe, so I'll link that up there for you. So I'm gonna use the Lily's. I'm not gonna do just a solid brick. I hate them when the chocolate is like solid. I like it kind of melty, so I'm very picky when it comes to my s'mores. Okay. I might try to melt my chocolate a little bit too. Can I melt this a little bit? Also don't want to crack my plate or anything. Let's toast the marshmallow. Ooh, this works better than the stove. Okay, now that it's toasted, we just want to heat it through a little bit more. So you want it melted inside. Just like a regular marshmallow. Don't want to cook the outside too fast, otherwise the inside won't be gooey. Maybe a campfire would do good with this then. As long as you keep it far enough away from the flames. Toasty and melty. It's soft inside. That is a mega s'more. I haven't had a s'more with this yet. It looks pretty delicious. Okay, gotta try a bite. really good. Oh man. I brought them over my mom's to have after it got dark, but Ben wasn't having it. Man, I wish my mom could have tried this. It is so good. Messy, but delicious. Graham crackers are nice and crispy. Marshmallows nice and toasty. Melty. Oh man, that is delicious. Now I'm bummed we didn't have these on 4th of July. My graham crackers, I believe, are 2 carbs for 2 pieces. 6 squares of the Lily's chocolate, only 1 carb. So the entire s'more is only 3 grams net carbs. But you don't need more than 1 of these. If you're going camping with your friends and they have s'mores, it always sucks to be left out. Now you won't be. Oh, it's so good. I was so excited about that s'more. I totally forgot. I bought a pack of the Marshmallow. Pretty similar, but these like keep their shape when you smush them. And they're not like very pulley. And it's with the fiber and the MCT oil and all that, they kind of just like smush down. They don't really taste like much. A little bit of vanilla, but they have kind of a weird texture. I guess maybe it's more of a texture of like a store-bought marshmallow. But they kind of just dissolve, which I don't think regular marshmallows do that. Well, I haven't had a regular marshmallow in a long time, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem the same. Let's try toasting one. Goes in way easier than mine. It says, enjoy max baking, sugar replacement, making s'mores, keep max at a distance from naked flame. So I'm guessing you have to keep it even further away than my marshmallows. It's just hot around it. It's not touching the flame. Does this melt and puff? I don't know. Oh, kind of caramelizing. It browns more like a regular marshmallow. Because it doesn't have allulose in it, it doesn't do the caramelizing thing. Although I barely touched it there. Is it just growing? Whoa, that was weird. I like didn't even touch it. It's still going. Why? That was like really burnt. Mine won't burn because of the allulose. It caramelizes and doesn't really catch on fire or burn. So if you like the black part of a marshmallow, I guess you can get this kind, but it's not growing. I don't know if it's melted in the middle or not. I think maybe it is. I guess I gotta try this between 2 graham crackers. I wasn't even near the flame and it caught on fire. I had to blow it out. Okay, let's see. So it's not as stretchy. It kind of dissolves, which I'm pretty sure a marshmallow stretches when you take it off. Let's try this one. Tastes like a marshmallow. It's just not as stretchy as a marshmallow. Like at this point, it's like marshmallow fluff instead of like a marshmallow, which is good too. I'd say it works. And it does get that brown, that black like burnt part. Well, if that's what you like, they're a good replacement. Like I said, these are $6 for 3.5 ounces. So that right there, same amount as this. So you have a lot of marshmallows here. Now, back to me eating a s'more. I'm excited. A little bit of the center was still like hard in there, but it just melted in my mouth. Oh, that was so good and made me so happy. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe and you make it for yourself and just have tons of fun, because nothing's more like childlike and nostalgic for me than a s'mores, and having one on keto and not going off plan and being able to join in with your friends who have kids who want s'mores and this and that. It feels awesome to be able to do that again. And I hope you guys enjoy also. Let me know by leaving me comments, giving the video a thumbs up. It's all really appreciated and really helps out the channel, and to know that you like these recipes and I can keep up doing these recipes. Don't forget to check out the Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with more keto recipe videos. Bye guys. Happy keto baking and marshmallow making.